Hello, this is Dirk from Boris Effects, and I'm here in Final Cut Pro 10 with BCC 8 for Motion 5 and Final Cut Pro 10 installed. What I hope to do in this movie is offer a sort of introduction to the BCC Extruded Text effect, which is part of the BCC 3D Objects category of effects. So if I go here and preview a finished effect, you see this effect that's going to loop here. It has a BCC extruded text effect, and then I've added to that a little bit of post-processing. I did a choker to get the text to seem to sort of blend in with the clouds a little more. And then I added some light rays and then sort of a light rings effect. You see those sort of ripples coming out from the center. So that was something I was pretty quickly and easily able to do here in Final Cut Pro 10. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at how you start to build that extruded text element of this effect. So here's this piece of video, and I'm going to select it, and over here again we want BCC 3D Objects category, and I'm going to grab the preset called BCC Extruded Text. Now you'll notice that there's BCC Extruded Text 1 material, there's Auto Motion, Type on Text, Extruded EPS in there. You know, if you have Motion 5, you can create your own templates, you can create additional ones, you can edit the existing templates. These are basically just Apple Motion 5 projects, you know, published as a Final Cut Pro effect. So that's what we have here. So here's BCC Extruded Text applied to this video now. If I go here and rotate it, you'll see that it is really truly 3D text rather than you know, some sort of kind of fake extrusion look. And what I want to show is, I'm just going to kind of show some basic functionality. I'm going to show how to edit the text, obviously the text characters, how to adjust the lighting, and how to maybe map different textures onto the surface and stuff like that. So first of all, let's make the text say something else and choose a different font. So I'm going to click this Edit Text button here, and the text window comes up. And why don't I say, we are listening. Which was the text that I had chosen there for that effect. In this text window, it's selection based, so you know, if I select just this text and I go through some different fonts, I can change just that. And then here, if I, you know, I can change the point size for just the selected text as well. But for now, I think what I was going to do is, so I should make this all 102, and I was going to use Lucida Grande, so I have the font menu popped up, and if I type LU on the keyboard there, it's found Lucida Grande, and I'll hit return. And I should just maybe make this 102. Now one thing that you'll find is, you'll notice that the justification buttons don't seem to be having any effect here. If you want to preview the correct justification in the text window, you have to have word wrap enabled. So now you'll actually see the changes there. But with or without word wrap enabled, you would see you know, it's center justified back here in Final Cut Pro once I dismiss the text entry window. Okay, so we've edited the text, and let's adjust some parameters here. I'm going to tighten up the line letting here. Grab the shift and drag. So that's an animatable line letting. There's also you know, animatable tracking as well. Let me actually view my title safe. You know, this is an easy way to adjust the scale after the fact right here. So adjust that and maybe move it up in the frame a little bit. And you know, I kind of wanted this effect, basically I'm giving the sense as if you're kind of under the text looking up at it. That's kind of the appearance that I want. So I'm tumbling it back in space a little bit as well. An interesting and kind of useful parameter here, you see if I spin this around, that's the effect we're getting. But another parameter here is this lens perspective, and if you want it to seem, you know, like an object kind of close to a wide-angle lens and get that kind of distortion, which I actually do in this effect, then I'm going to turn this all the way up, and you see that sort of exaggerated effect as the text gets closer to the camera, to the 3D camera. Zero that out there. And again, I'm just going to tweak the scale down a little bit, maybe move it up. Let's maybe tumble back a little more. Alright, so some fundamental parameters here. Maybe choose convex bevels in this effect I thought looked better. You see the extrusion depth is kind of a fundamental parameter there, which is going to work well with this this lens perspective setting that I have. And you'll notice one thing here, this blend mode choice. Now normal, which says over background, means it's compositing with this piece of video here in the timeline, which is what you'll want much of the time. Another choice is none, which will give you a transparent background, so it would reveal video that's down below this track. And then there's some other blend mode choices. One is hard light, which I think actually looks pretty good in this particular effect. For now, I guess I'll leave it on normal so we can see what's going on while I show some other controls here. You'll notice the 3D lighting. Why don't I skip to that first before I look at materials? So 3D lighting defaults to using 3-point lighting. If I turned on light 1 only, that's what we're seeing. Light 2 and light 3. Let me just to make it kind of obvious, I'm going to take some color, maybe from the image here, give a bluish lighting there, and then maybe some of this kind of orange, maybe make it a little more exaggerated. Actually, if I show it over black, again, this will probably be more obvious. So the front light, is the white one. Let's see, move it around there. And so this light 3 by default is like a little bit behind. Here I'll bring it out in front, put it back behind, so you're catching some of that light on the side. And here I can rotate it again so you get a look at that light interacting with the text. So those are the light controls. This particular preset does offer various options for material mapping. You see this, the one that defaults to is use the front controls for all surfaces, all materials. 2 gives you a different side material. Front equals back, side equals bevel. 3 gives you a different bevel. And then finally 4, will give you a different, separate controls even for the front and back and all the surfaces. And that'll allow you to map different video to those surfaces as well. And let me just show you how that's done. So front texture. Basically, I click on this input well here, and I can choose, if I go down here to this video and say apply clip, this is just this video down here of some fish swimming around, and I thought that was kind of a nice colorful thing to put on there. Just to show how it's possible to map moving video that way. Another thing I have here, if I go over here and choose this brushed metal texture, whoops, is you see this this event that I call tiling textures. Well, when you install BCC8, it actually will install this folder as a resource, and these are all some really nice and useful tiling textures that can be used for 3D objects. Now in Motion 5 you get a custom control pop-up menu where you can select them right in the filter controls. The way you have to use these in Final Cut Pro 10 is actually to create, an event in your event library and call it tiling textures and then import the ones you want. So that's what I've done here, and you can see you find them in Library Application Support, Boris Effects, BCC Effects Plug 8, and then in Styles, Custom Textures. So that's where you find all these tiling textures, and so I've created a little event in the library there using those. And those are, as I said, useful with these 3D objects. And why don't we give it a different side texture? I'm actually going to use this, this metal. And so if I rotate this and we look at that from the side a little bit, I'm going to adjust, I'm going to make this small, and it'll be a seamlessly tiling texture. And for the bevel, I'll just leave the bevel as is, I guess. So here's this. There's some other options having to do with the material. You can adjust the specularity, highlight amount. This reflectivity is kind of nice for simulating. You will use an actual reflection map for simulating a more reflective surface. So we have that set up there, and as I mentioned, you do have the option of some blend modes here, and I like the way the hard light looked here for creating that look. But another thing, what I did in that finished effect over here is I have a filter stack. Now, just to give you an idea, if I'm going to apply the light rays, onto that stack, if I go to the BCC lights category and I drag that on, now you see the problem there. The problem is that the light rays are being derived not just from the 3D text, but also from the background video. And that's because in this effect, we're actually compositing with the background video right here in the extruded text effect. So to avoid that problem, you could set it to none, transparent background, and then you get your light rays only coming off the text, and then you basically put the background video as another track underneath. So there we have that effect. And I could tweak the light rays, intensity, length, all kinds of stuff to get the look I'm after. Another nice way to set, oh, and yeah, if you still want to use that blend mode, what you can use is the built-in Final Cut Pro blend mode right here. So if I like that hard light look, I can use that one instead of the one built in the filter. So now I have these rays. Another kind of useful thing for setting it off from the background is this drop shadow. Now it's not a true 3D shadow in that it's going to react to the light or something like that, but it's a drop shadow, but it's still useful as far as giving that sense. Actually, here's a BCC type on effect where I also have the drop shadow enabled, and you can kind of see how it sets it off from the background. So here's a look at that. You can see how we kind of pretty quickly built that piece of extruded text. And just before we finish up, I'll just preview this a little bit more. Because Final Cut Pro 10 is good at saving previous render caches, I can actually just go through while this is playing and disable certain things. So here's the original 3D text just by itself. Here is with the hard light blend mode. And here's the composite choker. Watch how See how that kind of makes it appear as if it's emerging from the clouds a little bit. And then there's the light rays. And then finally these light rings, which is actually coming from the BCC ripple filter stacked on there. So that's a quick look at using BCC extruded text in Final Cut Pro 10.